Welcome back. This is Nom Nom, and we are once again in oxygen not included. So this is my Aridio map, quote, oppressive heat map. It is a challenge. I will tell you, this is, if you notice, we're on cycle 350. And I think my last video was around cycle 150, maybe. I played through, it's maybe 180 or 200 cycles off camera. I actually had recorded some, wasn't thrilled with the engaging content. There was a lot of drudgery going on, so I decided to just do this sum up video. So here I am on turn 350. A couple things about this map that I've learned that I just wanted to share. Okay, first of all, food is a big challenge in the beginning, but these hexalents, if I don't even, yeah, these hexalents provide like 3,600 kcals when you dig them up. So that's actually really good and can carry your colony for a long time until you get some kind of food production up and running. I originally did a cooling loop with the thermal regulators. My mistake with that, if we go into this, one, I used oxygen because it's what I had at the time, and I never changed it to hydrogen, which I really should have. Two, I did too big of an area. I had this rather large loop going around sort of my farm and these containers, which are full of hot things, and my computers and stuff. I should have just focused on the farm. If I had just focused on the farm, I think I would have been way ahead of the game as far as my food production went. I continued to have heat problems. You can see right now I have a body temperature problem. I made some big blunders here. If we look at my overlay, you see I'm using oil now to cool my base. I accidentally crossed pipes and drained my entire cooling loop of polluted water and nearly lost the base because I didn't notice that I drained my entire cooling loop. Now, I fortunately drained it, fortunately and unfortunately, I drained it into this bin because I accidentally connected to this liquid vent when I crossed some pipes where I should have used a bridge and I didn't. And if I'd have done it and connected the pipe to something else, it probably wouldn't have emptied the whole pipe because it would have backed up. But because I drained it into there, it did empty the whole pipe, and I was not cooling my base. So then I compounded that problem. I made it even worse. So I said, well, you know, I have this oil, and oil is a much better cooler in theory because I can take it down to minus 40, not minus 10, I think it is, for polluted water. Minus 20. So I'm like, well, I can go to minus 40 on this oil. This is going to even be a better cooler. It'll be better. Well, it was better, except that when I brought it into my base, it was like 170 degrees or something like that. It was ridiculously hot. And instead of passing it through a small loop to cooling it down between the liquid reservoir and the thermal aquatuner and then passing it into the base, I just passed it in a loop through the base. And it took several loops, as you can imagine, through the base before it brought it down to a reasonable temperature. I basically cooked my base with hot oil and then started cooling it again. As you can see, it's still hasn't even recovered from that. I'm up here, I'm good at 26 degrees or whatever, and the water, the liquid in my pipe is at 20 degrees now, so it is coming back down and the base will chill itself. But that was probably like the last 50 turns. I'm like, I screwed that up. I tried to recover from that. I made it even worse, and now I finally have it in a good state. Let's see, a couple of other things. I definitely should have made a sour gas boiler sooner. Trying to use petroleum to this petroleum generator, I definitely didn't plan for all the CO2 that I was going to have, and I had 4 kilograms or 5 kilograms of CO2 over here, just overpowering the gas pressure in my base. It was pretty bad. You see, even way over here, I still have 3K of CO2. So I'm down here destroying with a carbon skimmer, and down here I'm pumping CO2. I've got almost 2 kilograms of CO2 down here. This pipe here was pumping it for a long time. This thing has a atmo sensor on it, so it's not going to run constantly. What I should do is I should disable this guy, and then if the pressure gets high again, then I'll be sending it back down here where I'm actually using it by turning it into petroleum or crude oil with these slicksters. Yeah, so I only had 2 slicksters left on the whole map. I had to go down here and dig way over here to get to my slicksters. And then one way over here. Yeah, there's still one way over here that for some reason, I guess they're not building this For some reason that's an unreached. Oh, I guess they did a bad thing. So yeah, they never got to that guy. They will eventually. I finally got my steel production under control. I was producing enough steel to do what I wanted. My challenge with steel was I needed some high temperature equipment, and I had no gold amalgam. So we're going to go ahead and Alt-S and zoom out. After I finally got my heat under control, look what I found over here. I have a slime biome, which I honestly didn't even know was a possibility on this map, with gold amalgam. So lessons learned. So Aridio, lessons learned. Cool down a small area for a farm pronto. Second, if you can get a mushroom, and again there might be a mushroom over here. I don't know. There was finally some thimbleweed. I did not have thimbleweed either because again I didn't know there was a slime biome. If you can get thimbleweed, you're in a better position than I was because I had to wait until I got into ranching, and then I had these Drecos going, and for a long time I had no reed fiber, and I had a hard time building Atmo suits, building paintings for artwork, any of that stuff. If I had known that the Aridio map could have a slime biome, I would have definitely pursued that much earlier. So, oh, there's a dust cap right there. Yeah, I would have gone for that sucker as soon as I found it. These guys are, yeah, they require slime, of course. The mushrooms require slime, but they have a much wider temperature range. They can go from 5 to 35, whereas these guys go from 10 to 30. So the mushrooms are a better bet. They also produce more kcals, and if you fry them up, they don't require anything. Like if I want to take mealwood and turn it into meal loaf, then I have to get a cooking station and add water to them, which is never a good thing to use water for your food. So anyways, the electric grill just requires the mushroom. I fry the mushroom and it goes from 2400 kcals to 2800 kcals. So definitely mushrooms is the way to go. What else? Cooling loop. This thing worked great. Having this one Wheezewort in here in a small hydrogen bath, and again this loop is using oxygen even, so it's not as being as efficient as it could be. I even have I've got chlorine and a little bit of hydrogen. It could be more efficient if I'd taken more care with that. And then same here, I set up another cooling loop. I actually never even, it got cool enough up here because of my the cooling that I was doing in the core of my base here. It got cool enough that I didn't even need to put any gas in this pipe. You can see this one Wheezewort over here. It's minus 10 inside here. Of course, that's because I'm not stealing the heat and trying to spread it around the base. It was so warm up here at one point that I had pinch of pepper plants up here just so that my Drecos had something to eat. I no longer need those pinch of pepper plants. Clearly, it's not warm enough up here for them anyways. And I was using the shower just to put water in those pinch pepper nuts. So that was my solution for for irrigating those hydroponics tiles, was just to throw a shower up there to get some polluted water. What else? Pips are super easy to ranch. They breed like crazy. Look at all these pips. I don't know what their reproduction lifetime is here. Let's see. Reproduction, base 2 a cycle. Oh, these guys are glum. Glum. This guy's not glum. Reproduction, 17 a cycle. I guess that's normal. But I don't know. There's just a ton of them. I guess maybe because they live a long time. They live 100 cycles. Whatever the reason, I have a lot of pips. So these guys are providing me with meat. They're providing me, I could turn them, at this point I could turn it into an egg farm too and just start making a bunch of pip omelets. Yeah. I could also unleash them on the base instead of throwing them here. I could just unleash them on the base and let them plant stuff. Speaking of planting stuff, I had a pip down here for I don't even know how long, probably 200 cycles. I had a pip in this room, and he only planted 5 mealwood. So that whole pips planting natural plants or in the dirt, whatever, so you don't have to provide them with any nutrients, not as efficient as you would think. I find it's a lot more effective to just let them go ahead and plant trees, because whatever, I didn't plant any trees in food tile, and I have what, 305,000 lumber, and that's after I had over here for like last 50 turns 2 ethanol distilleries churning out ethanol at a high priority in order to fuel this petroleum generator. Lesson learned there, petroleum generator still does take ethanol. However, I will warn you, ethanol distiller, let's go ahead and look at this guy in refinement. Ethanol distiller kicks out 166.67 grams a second of carbon dioxide. It takes 4 of these bad boys to produce 2,000 grams a second of ethanol. A petroleum generator uses 2,000 grams a second of combustible liquid. So if you had 4 ethanol distillers going, which requires no duplicate labor, they just have to keep putting wood in it, and a petroleum generator consuming it, you would get, well, you'd get a ton of power, 2 kilowatts. You would also get a lot of heat. 20k DTUs from the petroleum generator, and 4.5 times 4, 18k DTUs from the ethanol distiller. But look at this, carbon dioxide 166, so I'm at 4 of those. So 250 plus 400, 650 grams a second, plus that guy 500. So you're at like 1150 grams a second of carbon dioxide. It is a lot of CO2, and you have to have a plan for it. You absolutely have to come up with a plan. This thing, while it deleted a ton of heat and really did well for me, I had to do a couple of tries before I could get it down to keep it under 100 degrees. I heard that taking the output at 95 degrees and running it past the turbine was enough to keep it below 100. Maybe if I put some shift plates that might work, but in my experience it did not work at all. So I had to run some of my cooled radiant pipe liquid past the turbine in order to keep it running, which is fine because they cool like 10 times more than they require cooling. So they're still deleting an absolute ton of heat, but I never got them to work as efficiently as I thought they would. With the 2 aqua tuners down here, and for a long time they were both running constantly. This thing's not running constantly now just because what it's trying to cool is cold. I've really got nothing drying heat out of it really at this point. I do need, I think I did need, I had a loop down here cooling this oil, and I broke it down and stopped doing it because I was just going to use the oil to turn into petroleum. But it's so hot down here that even my steel pump is overheating. I really should have kept that cooling loop down here to keep the oil cool so I could continue to work with it. But this system with 2 aqua tuners could never even keep one steam turbine running, even with this vent kicking out 5.8 kilograms of steam at 110 degrees. I've seen it in videos, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Yeah, this is a vacuum over here. On this side, I turned this into a vacuum so that I wouldn't lose heat from this heavy watt wire setup that I've got going on here. But regardless, it's a sealed system. I don't know where I'm losing so much heat that I can't get this even one steam turbine to run constantly. So obviously did something wrong there. Yeah, I think that's about it. Those are lessons learned. Resources, gold is a real problem. Early game heat management is a problem when you don't have access to gold amalgam. Well, that's it. I'm going to wrap this up because the game came out today in its released version, so I'm going to start a new colony. I may start a new colony again on the Aridio map. I really like the challenge of the heat map, but I also might just play a regular map because that might just be fun. And this map was hard, and I don't want to get burned out on just playing it on the hardest level all the time. Yeah, so that's it. That's my summary of 350 cycles in the Aridio map. Well, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you've enjoyed this video or my channel in general, please consider subscribing and smashing the like button. Until later, this is Nom Nom, signing out.